Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Gopi Jana Bhalabha Girivara Dhari 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 Jasodanandana Brajajanuranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanuranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachadi Tira Jamuna Tira Vanachadi Tira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Jayom Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Astatarasatasi Srimati His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Premanandi. Continuing, part 5. Srimati Radharani. Been a wonderful festival season. Very natural and very wonderful. Balaram, Krishna, Radharani, Sandini, Samvit, and Hladini. Right? This part 5 is discussing playful pastimes, and we're going to begin by showing the family lineage of Srimati Radharani. On the left side, her brother Sridham, on the right side, her younger sister Ananga Manjari. And father, Vrishabhanu, mother, Kirtida, or another name, Ratnagarbha. Ratnagarbha because from her womb came a Ratna, Radha. And Vrishabhanu had 4 brothers. There were 5 brothers, 5 sons. And notice Chandrabhanu is one of his brothers. Vrishabhanu and Chandrabhanu were brothers. Chandrabhanu is the father of Chandravali. And Chandravali and Radha are 2 principal personalities and the gopi groups amongst Krishna's so many gopis. We're going to hear something shortly about these 5 brothers, Bhanu, Subhanu, Ratnabhanu, Bhanu, and Chandrabhanu. Sometimes The Banu is also called Sri Banu. So you'll see that in the next slide. So 5 brothers. And his Vrishabhanu's sister, Banu Mudra. And then their parents, Mahi Mani and Sukada. So that's Vrishabhanu's grandmother. Radharani's grandmother. Paternal grandmother. And we're going to hear this, see the great uncles is Karala. We're going to hear that word in the next slide. Karala, great uncles. And then on her mother's side, Kirtida had 3 brothers and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sisters. And Radharani's maternal grandmother, we heard her name yesterday, Mukhara. So there's the family tree of Srimati Radharani. Here's a passage where it describes her family tree in Karala Gram. Remember this Karala, great uncle, at the very bottom left? Bottom left. At Karala Gram, Chandravali stays with her husband, Govardhan Malla, a resident of Karala. Her father, Chandravali's father, is Chandrabhanu. Her mother is Indumati. The father of Chandravali is one of 5 brothers. The eldest of the 5 is King Vrishabhanu. There is also Chandrabhanu, Ratnabhanu, Subhanu, and Sri Bhanu. Their bodily effulgence, Bhanu, is equal to the sun. Along with Govardhan Malla, that's Chandravali's husband, Chandravali sometimes stays at Sakhi Stali and sometimes at Karala. Sakhi Stali is important. Its location is on the west side of Govardhan Hill. We hear about Sakhi Stali in relation to a pastime with Raghunath Das Goswami. Maybe you remember. Raghunath Das Goswami was very renounced in many ways, and one of those features of renunciation was his eating. His life in Vrindavan, we mentioned this yesterday, was every other day he would eat something. Today's Ekadasi. Maybe some of us are fasting some part of the day or something. He ate every other day. And what he ate was a palmful of buttermilk. So it's the story, I told this, that one day one of his disciples brought a leaf cup that was quite large because there were large leaves and filled with buttermilk. And he offered it to Raghunath Das. Raghunath Das started taking the buttermilk and asked, "Where'd you get these large leaves?" He said, "Oh, there's a special such and such tree where they have very large leaves." "Where is that?" He said, "Sakhi Stali." Raghunath Das threw it away because Sakhi Stali is one of the places where Chandravali stays, and Chandravali is a competitor gopi to Radharani, and he is definitely in Radharani's camp. And so Sakhi Stali she would sometimes stay, and sometimes at Karala. And the Yuteshwaris, or the leaders of groups of gopis, headed by Padma, stay at this place. Padma is to Chandravali like Lalita and Vishaka are to Radharani. Padma. So that's just a little bit of geography and things. On the other side, Abhimanyu had a mother. We don't have the chart for his family. Abhimanyu's mother, Jatila, and Govardhan, it's Govardhan Malla's mother, Barunda, again and again placed obstacles in the way of Radharani and Chandravali, these two crest jewels of adolescent girls. So we didn't see the family chart of Govardhan, we didn't see the family chart of Abhimanyu, but Govardhan's mother, her name is mentioned more in writings of Rupa Goswami, but that's just some information about their family line. So there's two main playful pastimes that we'll be describing this morning. And one of those playful pastimes is gone by different names, the pearl tree, the pearl pastime. Some of you probably have heard the pastime. It's from a writing of Raghunath Das Goswami. And the title of the book that he wrote was Mukta Charita. Mukta Charita. And here's a little summary of that story. This is how it begins. For the purpose of increasing the rapturous delight of those divine persons, the celebrated devotees of the Lord, who are conversant with the science of the mellows of devotion, I will now churn the ocean known as Sri Vrindavan, that the waves of nectar produced therefrom, namely the wonderful character and qualities of Sri Hare, thus causing the devotees to drown therein. Kind of the preamble, and then comes the story. And the scene opens in Dwarka. And in Dwarka, there's a conversation between Satyabhama and Krishna. Now, the version I'm accustomed to hearing is a little different than what's here. Satyabhama asks Krishna, I heard that when you were living in Vrindavan, you grew pearls from a pearl tree. Is that true? Krishna smiles and says, yes. Can you tell me how you grew pearls from a pearl tree? Then he starts narrating his Vrindavan pastimes to Satyabhama and Dwarka. Here's a slightly different version. Natha, my lord, were the pearls set in my bracelets produced originally as the fruits of a creeper? What sanctified country is it that produces such fascinating creepers? Hearing Satyabhama's question, Krishna becomes contemplative. He's thinking very deeply about Vrindavan Dham. Satyabhama's question awoke within the mind of Sri Krishna remembrance of the wonderful pastime, which in turn caused him to feel very afflicted in his heart. Separation from Vrindavan. Externally, however, he smiled as he began his reply. Priye, dearest one, the time has long passed since pearls were produced from creepers. At present, all pearls come from oysters. Then he tells the story. In Gokula, one day during the month of Kartik, the Deepa Malika festival, Diwali festival, was going on at Sri Govardhan. At that time, the residents of Gokula were carefully preparing all kinds of decorations and ornaments, which were just suitable for celebrating that festival. And there's a long section saying what everybody did in preparation for Diwali. It's very colorful. Meanwhile, the young gopis, amongst them, the daughter of Rishabhanu, Sri Radhika, was seated within a courtyard constructed from Madhavi creepers on the banks of the lake known as Malya Haran. Literally, Malya's garlands and Haran is stolen. This place, Malyaharan Kund, is very important for this pastime. It's by the side of Radhakund. It's on the eastern side. It's a little bit of a walk from Radhakund, but that's where the gopis were, Malyaharan Kund, or the lake known as Malyaharan, where, in the company of her Sakis, she was preparing to make various ornaments from a collection of most exquisite pearls. Now that there is a place on the eastern side of Radhakund still going by the name Malyahara Kund. And when you go there, it's very unpretentious. It's just like an algae pond. But that's the place, Malyahara Kund, where this pastime occurs. So it's still celebrated by that name. So they're making pearl ornaments for Diwali. Coming to know of these events from the tidings of a young parrot who is very aptly named Vichakana. Parrot informed Krishna that's what the gopis are right now. I immediately proceeded to that place in eager curiosity. So here are some nice paintings with Krishna with a parrot, Vichakana. This one's a blue parrot. This one's a yellow parrot eating a flower. This one's a green parrot. Notice it's the same painting, but one is Krishna's just looking at you, and the other one, he's got a nice smile. Upon my arrival, I submitted with great solitude before Radha and her friends my petition for a collection of pearls with which I might decorate the receptacles of my fondest love, my two cows, celebrated with the names Hangsi and Harini. Mentioned in many places, Krishna had many, 900,000 cows, Nanda Maharaj's cows, and amongst them he had names for each. There's names for the groups and names for each cow, and his two favorite cows, Hangsa and Harini. So he wanted to make pearl necklaces for all the cows, but minimally for these two cows. So he was asking for pearls from the gopis for that purpose. Hearing my request, the girls barely glanced at me and remained silent with seeming indifference. At this point, I laughed and addressed them once again. Hey, Sakis! Because you have all recently attained the priceless touchstone of adolescent beauty, is this pride of yours blocking your ears? Please heed for a moment the matter which I am presenting before you, and which is amiable to you all. Lalita replied, these extremely costly pearls, which are fit to be worn by the king's queens, are now deemed as just suitable for your cows and she-buffaloes? Oh, really? I know. Why shouldn't we just give you all the pearls so that you can decorate your cows? Krishna responds to her sarcastic reply. Oh, you who are yourselves all very attractive ornaments, you don't have to give me all of the pearls, but at least you should give me some of them, which factually are just perfect for decorating the four horns of these two most favorite cows of mine. There they are, Hans and Harani again. So Lalita again responds. She's gathered the pearls, showing them in a big tray. Lalita took the pearls from all the Sakis, and while showing them to me with a big smile on her face, moved them around and around, saying, "Hey, Krishna, alas, what shall I do? There is not even one pearl here fit for your cows." They're insulting him. I replied, "Oh, Lalite, oh, most clever one, just forget it. Henceforward, you will never be able to call me a miser." So Krishna wasn't discouraged. He went to Mother Yasoda. After reproaching them, immediately came to my mother and told her, "Janani, oh mother, please give me some pearls. I want to plant them in the field." And Mother Yasoda's reply is, "Lala, pearls don't grow from the ground." And Krishna's reply, "With my father, many, many times we've gone to the field, made holes in the ground, put seeds in the ground, covered the seeds, watered the seeds, and very soon something grows from the ground. I'm sure we can make these pearls into a pearl garden." I request her again and again in this way. And finally, after listening to my eager request, Mother laughed loudly and replied, "Vatsa, my darling, pearls will never sprout if you plant them." I said, "Janani, you must give me some pearls. Within 3 days, they will definitely sprout. This you will be able to see with your own eyes." So Mother Yasoda loves Krishna so much, and he was so persistent, she consented. Seeing my intense eagerness, Mother couldn't refuse me, and so gave me a collection of many of her pearls. Mother Yasoda giving some of her pearls to Krishna. Nice painting. So Krishna became very busy planting his pearls in a pearl garden. While I was busily engaged in seeding my freshly prepared beds with pearls, some gopis happened to pass that way and made their presence known by their loud laughter. He went by the side of the river Jamuna, and in a very special place, he began making his pearl garden and taking water from the Jamuna to make his pearl garden grow. So, but Krishna ignored. They came by, they saw what he was doing, they laughed. Krishna ignored. I therefore devised a plan whereby the gopis would be induced to come to me to beg for pearls. So here's Krishna's plan. I sent some of my friends to them to request some milk for the purpose of watering my pearl plants. The person he sent was Madhu Mangal. Madhu Mangal was treated in the same way. So here's Krishna and some of the gopis making request for their milk. Of course, they only laughed very loudly as they replied, "Our milk is not suitable for such a noble purpose. Rather, you should use the milk of those cows for whom you are going to such great lengths to produce a quantity of pearls." So, the second insult. Accepting their advice, we then proceeded to water those plants with abundant milk from our own house on a daily basis, so that they might see that we were doing so. And sure enough, after a few days came the sprouts. On the fourth day, all of those multicolored and most fragrant pearls began to sprout. Seeing this, I was extremely delighted and ran to tell Mother. So here's a pearl tree with white pearls. Here's a pearl tree with purple pearls. So he took his mother's hand and brought his mother to see his pearl garden. Catching hold of her sari, I brought her there and showed her the new sprouts. She was quite surprised and simply exclaimed, "What is this?" Considering the whole matter within her mind, she returned to Vraja, full of suspicion. Meanwhile, the gopis, receiving this news, they simply laughed among themselves, saying, "Only ferocious creepers of envy were sprouting." It's thorn trees. In the space of only a few days, a heavenly scent which drove the bees mad began to emanate from the flowers that had now bloomed, thus pervading the whole of Gokula with their fragrant perfume and bestowing upon the gopis an inexpressible joy. So they're not fully matured into colorful pearls yet. All of those pearl fruits assume such an uncommon beauty, more so, in fact, than the 8 kinds of original pearls from which they derive their existence. Now, this is right in his book, and there's a little footnote on what are these 8 kinds of pearls, origins of pearls. Of course, oysters, conch shells, wild boars' heads, elephants' heads, king cobra's heads, bamboo stem, clouds, and fish heads. No explanation. Seeing that all these creepers had produced pearls, the Brajavasis were amazed. Specifically, the gopis were especially dumbfounded with astonishment. They came every day to see these wonderful plants. They then began to consult among one another. "Hey, Sakis, it is now a well-known fact among us that Krishna will never give us any of his pearls, because previously, when he requested from us both pearls and milk, we refused to comply. Therefore, why should he now give us his pearl fruits? But what does that matter? It's not that we didn't witness the procedure for growing pearls. In fact, we have seen exactly how it is done. Therefore, giving up our lack of courage, why shouldn't we begin a pearl field which is at least twice the size of Krishna's competitive spirit, transcendental?" Lalita again. The supremely intelligent Lalita addressed the Sakis, "My dear friends, who are now overwhelmed by insanity, these sorts of miraculous activities, such as picking up Sri Govardhan and producing pearls from the earth, marvelous deeds which are difficult even for demigods to perform, are nevertheless accomplished without effort by Krishna. Even though you are aware of these things, still you are desirous of persuading yourselves to undertake this work, though none of you possess any such mantras or magic potions. This will in the end most certainly amount to nothing more than the cause of your falling into the ocean of embarrassment and ridicule. That's Lalita. Nandimukhi replied, Sakis, please don't think that anything is impossible as regards this matter, because it is all due to the natural influence of this soil. In Vrindavan, golden trees have grown and are growing, visible before our eyes, with new twigs made of coral, fresh green emerald leaves, buds of diamonds and pearls, and fruits made of rubies. Therefore, if pearls are planted in these fields of Brajabhumi and are seen to produce creepers which bear pearl fruits, then what is so strange and wonderful about that? Nandimukhi's thoughts prevailed. Radharani decided, yes, let's make a nice, big, twice as big as Krishna's pearl garden. But we don't have enough pearls. We have some pearls. But she then suggested they go to the storehouse of their parents to get some extra pearls. Radharani requested her Sakis to secretly borrow a large supply of pearls from their mothers, and the Sakis also started pearl cultivation. They watered their plants with all the milk and ghee from all their homes. But their fields only grew thorn bushes. So the gopis were excited. Some sprouts were coming out of the ground. And Krishna laughed, as they had laughed at him, and said, those aren't pearl trees, those are thorn trees. And the gopis said, we'll show you pearl trees. And after some time, sure enough, it was thorn trees. It didn't take many more days, however, before the plants in Radharani's and her friends' fields, as well as the ones in all the other gopis' fields, clearly exhibited symptoms of being thorny creepers. Coming to know this myself, I conveyed my congratulations by way of a few slightly sarcastic remarks. Remember, he's telling Satyabhama about a Vrindavan pastime. I heard that your fields have produced many wonderful pearls by now, and so I am the dearly beloved of all of you. I hope that you will send with my friends as a presentation to me the first pearls produced from your gardens. Sarcastic. Thereafter I began to decorate all my friends, the cows and calves, the sheep buffaloes who pulled the carts, the sheep along with their lambs, the female goats and their kids, and the female monkeys and peacocks with pearl garlands and pearl ornaments. So Krishna is using up all of his pearls from his pearl gardens to decorate all the forest animals. In this painting, it shows there's Harini wearing a pearl garland. And in this painting, it shows and how many peacocks and monkeys are there in Vrindavan. And they're all wearing pearl necklaces. After some time, after some more deliberation, it was decided. So the gopis were in anxiety. We've used all of our pearls and all of our parents' pearls, and we have to put them back. Now we have to go to ask Krishna for some pearls, but Krishna's going to say no. So they sent Chandramukhi, who was very cunning by nature, and she should take gold and all their golden ornaments and jewelry and go to Krishna and start some bartering, some gold for some pearls. So Chandramukhi was assigned, and an assistant was Kanchana Lata. They came to the place where Krishna's pearl fields were, little garden house by the pearl fields, carrying with them an abundant quantity of gold. So here they are, the two gopis. And they first spoke to Subal, one of Krishna's friends. Hey, Subal, we've heard from reliable sources that you are desirous of selling your new pearl crop. Therefore, please accept all of this gold, which is of the purest quality, and give us in exchange their proper value by presenting us with a choice selection of your pearls. So a major portion of this small book is bartering talk between Vaishyas. The gopis offer this, Krishna offers that. He says, all of the gold you have is not worth even one of my pearls. Just see how big these pearls are, see how colorful they are. They're even fragrant. They're persistent in bartering. So Krishna decides first not to sell any pearls, and then he makes this suggestion. Krishna agreed to sell the pearls at a price that he would quote. So Subal replied, what price do you want to quote, Krishna? Very clever answer. He's speaking about Lalita again. We know it's Lalita because of the sari that she's wearing. With a playful smile on my lips, I replied, if the chief amongst this battalion, Sri Lalita Ji, is able, by exhibiting the prowess of the most vigorous amongst us, to even once pin me, the lion among men, down in a wrestling match, in hand-to-hand combat, then it will come before her as a woman, appearing just like a submissive and dependent wife. I will sing the glories of her manliness and virility. I will in this way become her servant. This is the small payment I will receive from her. Subal asked, now, how will Lalita, who is softer than the softest young girl, contest in battle such a wild and untamable character as you? My friend Subal, you have spoken truthfully. Most of the time, and in most cases, I am, as you have described me. But not in front of this girl Radha, since from the very beginning, in the most forceful and intense manner, this Radha, who was so strangely wonderful in all her diverse ways, and so wise and intelligent, has on many occasions, simply with her eyebrows, which are like two fierce bows, completely stunned me. Very clever talk. So the nice painting of Radharani. And so the discussion goes on and on and on. And the end of the bartering is, there's no deal. And finally, so the Chandramukhi and Kanchalata become very disappointed. Krishna sees they're disappointed. He reaches into his bag and says, I'll tell you what, you can give this broken pearl to Radharani, no payment. So they go back and inform Radharani what happened. Radharani is in big anxiety because she's authorized the gopis to take pearls from their mother's supply. They have to replace the pearls. And they've offended Krishna and he's being non-cooperative. What to do, what to do. So Krishna, knowing their anxiety, becomes inspired. I think I'll make a pearl necklace for Radharani. And after making the pearl necklace for Radharani, he's so pleased with himself, he wants to put the pearl necklace in a golden box. And he's so pleased with the golden box, he decides to have the golden box engraved with Radharani's name. And after completing that service, he then decides her 8 principal gopis should also get a pearl necklace in a golden box with their name engraved on the box. And Krishna comes with these boxes with their pearl necklaces inside and offers them to Srimati Radharani. And her heart is melted. Beautiful painting where there's so many pearls, they start feeding the pearls to the peacocks. They start feeding the pearls to the swans. And Radharani is so pleased, she expresses to her gopi friends, let us do something for Krishna. So let us make a nice feast for Krishna and all his gopa friends. So they prepare a fantastic feast. Here Krishna is accepting the feast prepared by Radharani, and the gopis are serving the divine couple. And Krishna is now very pleased. The story is about to end. Lamenting with tears streaming from his eyes, Sri Krishna became completely overwhelmed, remembering his Vrindavan pastimes, and fell down on the earth. He again and again called out, Prana Bhalave, Kshat Satyabhama, you please become Sri Radha, the only medicine that can save me now. Satyabhama said, Hey, Prananath, oh, you are the one and only life of all the residents of Braja. All glories to you, all glories to you. Please be patient, be comforted. And then the final section, that's Raghunath Das Goswami with his Govardhan Shila given from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. With bunches of straw in my teeth, I pray again and again that I might repeatedly take birth as a particle of dust at the lotus feet of Pada Padma of Srila Rupa Goswami. I've been incited and excited by his nectarian direction to prepare this bouquet of flowers called Mukta Charita. Only by his teachings has this become possible. In 3 of his books that I'm aware of, maybe more, he expresses the same. He just wants to become a particle of dust, birth after birth, touching the lotus feet of Rupa Goswami. He has such reverence for Rupa Goswami. By this bouquet of flowers, Mukta Charita, that has somehow or other been astonishingly arranged by me, may the followers of Sri Rupa Goswami decorate their ears and, in so doing, shower some of their affection on me. Life after life, may I obtain here in Braja the association of Krishna, thus Kaviraj, on the strength of which I was able to make known this most wonderful story about a superior type of pearl. And that's the end. So he's also acknowledging Krishnadas Kaviraj. Very interesting, particularly Krishnadas Kaviraj was hearing from Raghunath Das, the life of Lord Chaitanya in Puri. And on the basis of what he heard from Raghunath Das, Krishnadas Kaviraj wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita. Not only the pastimes, but the meaning within the pastime, because Raghunath Das had understood all those things by the agency of Swarup Damodar. So although Raghunath is the one speaking Gaura Lila to Krishnadas, he's honoring Krishnadas. It's just his nature. Raghunath Das Goswami is very humble. That's one of two pastimes. We have time for one more. The boat pastime at Manasi Ganga. Many devotees are very familiar with this pastime, so it's nice to hear it again and again. A little bit of the history behind Manasi Ganga. This is a photograph of Manasi Ganga today, some portion of it. And the history goes like this. During one of Krishna's childhood pastimes, he killed Vatsasura. Vatsasura was a demon, Vatsa, who took the form of a Vatsa, or a calf, and thus Vatsasura. And his plan was he'd hide himself amongst the calves so Krishna wouldn't detect, and then he would attack Krishna at the right time. Well, unfortunate for him, Krishna immediately understood when he came a particular day and concealed himself amongst the other calves. Krishna pulled Balaram to the side, pointed to, this is not a calf, this is a demon. Immediately he understood. And so Krishna approached the calf and began wheeling the calf around and around by his hind legs. As he was doing that, the calf became the original demon, and whirling him around and around, he lost his life. So the cowherd boys saw all of this, and they said, "You killed the calf, so we're not going to play with you until you purify yourself." And Krishna said, "He's not a calf, he was a demon. He was just concealing himself as if he was a calf." They said, "That's all right, you killed the calf. So you have to purify yourself by taking bath in the Ganges, otherwise we're not going to play with you." So Krishna, being omnipotent, all-powerful, why go all the way to the Ganga to take bath? So he, from his mind, Manasa Ganga or Manasi Ganga, he manifested Manasi Ganga and took his bath. So that's how Manasi Ganga became manifest. The texts describing Manasi Ganga explained that previously, during Krishna's time, Govardhan Hill was very big, much, much bigger than it is today. And Manasi Ganga extended from where it is today all the way to Anior, which is like 2.5 miles. Really big, up on top of Govardhan Hill. So one day, Krishna saw his father preparing for a journey. And he asked his father, "Where are you going?" He said, I'm going with some residents of Vrindavan to the Ganga to take our bath in the Ganga. And what inspired that? I was hearing a narration of a Purana that was describing once Garuda was carrying a snake in his claws and was flying over the Ganga when just circumstantially the tail of the snake touched the waters of the Ganga, and the snake immediately transformed into a four-armed Vaikuntha Vasi form. Then, amazed, Garuda placed this divine being on his back and took him to Vaikuntha. So I wanted the same benefit. So I want to go with the Vrajbasis to the Ganga to take our sacred bath. And Krishna said, Nanda, you don't need to go to the Ganga because the Ganga's right here in Vrindavan. I said, no, Ganga's far, far away. No, Krishna said it's true. I'll show you, let's go. He took his father by the hand. They went to Manasi Ganga, and he called Ganga Devi herself to come and show Nanda Maharaj that she was present. So there she is, riding on the back of her alligator carrier. Nanda was quite amazed, and he called off his travel to go visit the Ganga and take his sacred bath in the Ganga. So since that time, the Manasi Ganga area has become less, but it's still present. This is another photograph of the very place where the boat pastime occurred. If you look at this photograph, over to the far right is Chakaleshwara Mahadeva temple, and towards the far left, there's a series of walkways along the side of Manasi Ganga, and one of them is where there was a boat ghat during Krishna's time. And one day, the gopis wanted to take their dairy products from one side of Manasi Ganga to the other side of Manasi Ganga to a marketplace. However, when they got to the boat ghat, there was only one rickety old boat. And the rickety old boat had this sleepy-looking boatman. So the gopis shrugged their shoulders. What are we going to do? We'll travel in this boat. The boatman was Krishna. So when they boarded the boat and got out well into the Manasi Ganga area, the boatman said, I'm really hungry. Can you give me some of your dairy products? So they complied. They gave him a good amount. And he kept eating and eating, and after eating a lot, he said, I'm feeling very tired. I need to take a short nap. So the gopis allowed him to take a short nap, but then afterward, it isn't just a short nap. They woke him up and take us across the river, the Manasi Ganga. So as they were continuing their journey across Manasi Ganga, what would happen? A big storm came, dark, dark clouds, high winds, and Krishna then was afraid that the boat might sink. This boat had holes in it. So he said, there's too much weight in this boat, you have to throw your dairy products over the side of the boat. So they did. And then there's still too much weight. You have to throw your ornaments over the side of the boat into Manasi Ganga. So they complied. Then he said, your clothes soaked with water are now too heavy, you have to throw them across the side of the boat. And the gopis lunged at Krishna and grabbed him around the waist. You better get us to the other side, or we're throwing you into the Ganga, Manasi Ganga. So here's a nice painting showing the gopis tossing things to one side and the other side of the boat into the Manasi Ganga. There's Radharani at the front of the boat. Miraculously, the storm stopped. Everything became very calm. And they spent the rest of the day making a nice journey here and there on Manasi Ganga on Krishna's boat, which looks much nicer than the original boat. But that's the painting. So that's the Manasi Ganga pastime, the boat pastime. So the pearl pastime and the boat pastime. And that's our discussion for this morning. We've gone for 45 minutes, just discussing two pastimes. And let's see if there's some discussion. Well, it depends on what boat festival you're talking about. There's different boat festivals.
I see.
Which one are you talking about?
In Vrindavan and Mayapur, we celebrate boat festivals.
Well, there's different boat festivals. Sometimes there's a boat festival which is putting the deities on a boat for a pleasure pastime and moving slowly. It's just like in Puri. There are different pastimes where they take the deities from the temple to Narendra Sarovar and in a big boat, and they, several day festival. So there's different boat festivals. It's not only celebrating this one.
Yes.
It's a pleasure pastime for the deities behind you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, you said morning, Kirtida, also called as Ratnagarbha.
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 Yeah.
So, Ratna came from her Garbha, Radharani.
Yes.
But how can we understand Vrishabhanu and Kirtida, they got Radharani in a lotus flower, right?
Kirtida was Radharani's mother.
Yes, Maharaj.
So Radharani took birth from Kirtida, and thus her name is Ratnagarbha. So I don't see what the problem is. Could you explain it again?
No problem. Just I want to understand. You said Kirtida also called as Ratnagarbha because Ratna came from her Garbha, if I understood correctly.
The child is a jewel-like child. The child came from the womb of Kirtida, so she is sometimes also called Ratnagarbha. I don't understand what the problem is.
Actually, Radharani didn't come from the womb of Kirtida. Is that my understanding correct?
Why do you say that?
Yesterday we understood that Vrishabhanu found Radharani in a lotus flower.
The origin of that, she was understood as the daughter of Kirtida and Vrishabhanu through her life, the daughter of Kirtida. Now, what was explained by Rupa Goswami in Lalita Madhava, Vidagdha Madhava, can't remember which one of these dramas, that from the womb of Kirtida and from the womb of Yashoda, from the womb of Kirtida and from the womb of Chandrabanu's wife, I forget her name, the children were taken, but then they were returned back to them. So it's understood they came from the womb of their mothers. They took birth as the daughters of India, but they were reinstated as the daughters of their mothers. Is that okay?
That's fine, Guru Maharaj.
It was part of Rupa Goswami's way of explaining that these two, if you remember the very end of that discussion, Gargi is there talking to herself, musing. Now I understand, now I've heard this from my father, I'm hearing it again from Purnamasi, that each of the gopis have their spiritual counterpart as queens of Krishna. So how did it happen that they became, they're non-different than their counterpart, their manifestations, one entity with different manifestations? So that's just a very high-level esoteric way of explaining how it happened. But Radharani came from the womb of Kirtida. And that's her mother.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, my humble obeisance to you. These pastimes, beautiful pastimes you explain, and the gopis are Shakti Tattva, and we are Jiva Tattva, but looking at these pastimes, they are also, doing some material activities like, what Jiva Tattva we do. So how do I understand they are really elevated from the Jiva Tattva? Could you please?
Sure. As above, so below. Meaning, what takes place in the spiritual world has its reflection here in the material world. So if we do Vaishya bartering, it's a reflection of the transcendental, etc. So how do we understand this on the authority of Scripture and our great acharyas? The spiritual world is the original from which this is a reflection, or of which this is a reflection. So there may be many, marriage, work, eating, there's things that we do that are material. And we hear that in the spiritual world they're eating, it's not our eating, etc. So how do you understand, was your question? You understand on the authority of Scripture. How do you understand anything? There's evidence for understanding. There's sense, perception, reason, and Scripture. Pratyaksha, Anuman, and Shabda. So we understand through Shabda. And we should be careful when thinking of that which is given to us from Shabda, that it's like it is our experience. If it doesn't fit our experience, then we're uncomfortable. But it's beyond our experience. It's that from which the temporary comes as a shadow of the reality. So yes, there's similarity between what we do and what those in the spiritual realm do. Jivas imitate. And the mood of trying to be, the main distinction is in the mood of trying to be the enjoyer of those activities. And the spiritual realm is Krishna is the enjoyer of those activities. And it may look different. It's like they're just doing what young people may do, talking back and forth and saying funny things and saying sarcastic things. But this is imitation of that. That's pure joy. Riding in a boat, etc.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Okay.
So Guru Maharaj, you said Shabda, but there is Krishna also says Pratyaksha Avagamam Dharmyam. It says it directly also perceived. So what point it is directly perceived?
If Pratyaksha doesn't conform with Shabda, we hit the pause button. Direct pratyaksha avagamam dharmyam susukam kartamavayam, which is what you're making reference to.
Right.
The soul is directly perceived. But the soul is directly perceived how? By seeing the soul? Not possible. Material eyes cannot see the spiritual anything. So it's another kind of pratyaksha. Plus, the soul is too tiny. How are we going to see the soul, even with the best of microscopes? It's not pratyaksha, that kind. It's perceiving, direct perception, through the medium of sound. And when the medium of sound is the lens through which you're looking at things, then you can directly perceive. or get realization, that kind of pratyaksha.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for coming over here. Please accept my humble obeisances. One question I have is related to Kamalanayana Prabhuji's question. During the class, we mentioned that Satya Lalita is more intelligent and things like that. So there are so much of varieties there. So in spiritual world, I was thinking that almost everybody is full of knowledge and full of bliss, and so everybody understands everything. So somebody is cunning.
Not everybody understands everything, but go ahead.
So somebody is more cunning and things like that.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
No problem. There's variegatedness in the realm of absolutes. It's said specifically, for example, that Radharani is the repository of all good qualities. Each of the gopis has some portion of all of her good qualities. And there's lists of this gopi has these, that gopi has those, another gopi has some others, and Radharani is the repository of all qualities. And the variegatedness is there for pleasure, for enjoyment, for Krishna's enjoyment. And then even within one gopi, there may be a rising and a falling of a particular quality. You know, it's just not stagnant. Very fluid and very dynamic. And it's very pleasurable like that. And Radharani is the fountainhead of all of that for her expansions, the Sakis. Okay?
Yes, Maharaj. So all these unique pastimes are going on endlessly, forever.
Oh, like a river. I mean, rivers have in time, when at the end of cosmic manifestation, rivers are over. But these, like a river, it just keeps flowing and flowing and flowing and flowing, and literally endlessly. You have something? No? Okay. Anything else? Online, anything? Srila Prabhupada ki jai.